Hello, everyone. Today we will be reviewing the movie Rogue, starring Megan Fox. I'd been waiting for this movie I've been waiting to do this movie for a while, I guess. So it was finally on Netflix, so I figured I'll just kind of do the movies in the order on my list that they come to me anyway, because I've made like 5 different lists for movies. So anyhow, this movie starts out, we're on this lion farm, and basically it kind of shows the reality of what happens to these lions as they are sold for their, I guess, bones and fur, basically. So, and obviously, I guess some trophy hunters like to have something to hang on their wall. It's kind of said in the movie to say that they took down the beast of took down the king of the jungle, I guess was the wording used. So Megan Fox and her, why can't I think of her name? Her actual name in the movie. Where did I put my phone? Oh, okay, hold on a second. Oh, right, her name is Sam in this movie. Or Samantha, whichever one. I think she just calls herself Sam for most of this movie, though. Anyhow, so her and her team are going in to extract this, the governor's daughter. And when they get in there, they realize there's a pretty big militia presence there anyway, trying to protect these girls because they want to put them into trafficking. So Sam and her team are there to only extract the one girl. They end up grabbing all 3 because her team doesn't feel right about leaving the other 2 girls there to obviously be trafficked further, because that would be bad for them. Who knows where they would end up. So the leader of the militia is this guy named Zalal. He eventually... so after they are able to get them out, they are basically chased down. A couple members of her team end up dying in this giant gunfight. They have to jump into this river. They are running away from Zalal. Obviously, they don't want to be hunted down. By the time they find new shelter, they're basically down to the very last of their bullets, so they don't have very much to protect themselves with anymore. And that's when they start getting hunted by this lion, who at the beginning of the movie escaped. So now all the lions have escaped due to the fact this one lion has killed basically the entire crew that was working at this lion farm. So now it is hunting Sam and her team. Unfortunately, it is able to get a couple of the members of her team, and yeah, they're in pretty rough shape by the time Zalal finally shows up near the end of the movie. And there's another big battle scene. Luckily, they are able to make it to sunset, which is what they were told they had to do. After battling the lion, they have to battle Zalal, but they do make it out to sunlight or dawn. And unfortunately, only 2 of her, so Sam and one of her other team members survive. That's it. So they are all Marines, I guess, or at least some of them were. I guess Sam was a Army Ranger, I believe. That's what her last ranking was, I think. So a couple of the Marines. So basically her father recruits her to do all the hard jobs, and then she recruits these guys to come in and help her out with these jobs. So she does have a higher rank than any of them, so she is the boss in this situation. So they all follow her. And unfortunately, in this movie, I guess that kind of went badly for most of them. But, and then the governor's daughter that they are supposed to be protecting kind of goes a little crazy at the very end, because she only kills one person. But, she could have probably done it a little quicker than she did. But, I mean, at least she was able to kill this guy and not go back into Zalal's hands. And then the final scene in the barn with Sam and Zalal. Um, Zalal is killed by the lion because he has to pick between killing Sam and killing the lion, which he could have just easily probably shot the lion. He had an AK, and then he could have shot Sam too in the same process, probably. And then we find out that this entire time, the lion was just trying to protect its babies, so as soon as it hears the babies, it just leaves with the babies, which is kind of odd. But anyway, I guess for this movie, it worked. Um, it wasn't really scary, I guess, basically because, I mean, it had a few jump scares, sure, but other than that, there wasn't too much. Like, the scenes were suspenseful. I will say this, though. The animation on the lion for a movie that was made, I believe this came out just this year, didn't it? Yeah. The the animation on the lion for a movie that came out in 2020 was absolutely horrendous. Like the animation on the animals was really bad. I don't know why it was so bad, but you could really tell that this thing was fake. like and I mean the acting was good. Like and I know some of the other actors that were in this movie, so I don't really understand um, why it seemed so high budget for the storyline with the militia group and her team of and Sam's team, and then the story that was supposed to be like them being hunted by this lion, why it was so poorly animated. Like they probably could have done a much better job on that part. Um, but that was probably really the only flaw. I mean, I guess the lion was kind of just there to be there, and the actual story was more focused on the governor's daughter and surviving the night, um, and staying away from this man named Zalal, who obviously wants all the power and wants to kind of overthrow the government in a way, I guess, was his plan by taking the daughter. He would have more of the power, I suppose. Maybe that was his thought, or he didn't really care about the power. He just knew everybody was corrupt, so yeah, I'm not really sure what he thought he was going to gain by getting into the human trafficking business, but who knows? Maybe he was hoping to make some extra money on the side, because he basically goes on this rant about how everybody trades in furs and rhinos and all that kind of animal stuff, and basically says that the governor is just as corrupt as anybody else, and he owns the place that they're fighting on, I guess, or the land that they were fighting on at the very end of the movie. So he's not as good as what he says he is, but I mean, that's just what he's saying, so who actually knows? There were some sad scenes in this movie, though, especially when they were talking about one of the members of Sam's team as African, and he talks about how he joined the militia group at a very young age, and they told him that if he ever left, his children and family would be killed. He does end up leaving, and that's exactly what they did to him. They made him watch as his family and children were killed. And then the governor's daughter talks about her story when they came in and captured her from her classroom. They lined 8 girls up at the front of the class, and she had to basically sit there waiting for her turn to die, while they shot the other 7 and just took her captive, yeah, or kidnapped her, I guess, in a sense. I think that's pretty much it that I can say about this movie. I mean, the action sequences were good. At least I will say for this movie, as far as action sequences go, it wasn't like the good guys were hitting every bullet and the bad guys were missing. At least the bad guys were able to, you know, kind of really break down this team and show how much strength this team actually had, even though it was only down to 2 members by the end of the movie. Um, yeah, and one scene with the African guy and the other guy that I guess he might have been in the militia with was kind of odd to me, because he could have just easily shot him, but instead he decides to put his gun down and fight him with knives, and then he ends up dying himself, there were just some things where I feel like it could have been avoided for some of her team members, but hey, that's just me. Especially that one. I mean, obviously some of it you could kind of tell that it was just being set up for the Lion to take them out. But in that scene, I was like, what is he doing? Just shoot the guy and then continue to help. But I guess he wanted to prove that he was going to die a man, and that was his way of doing it. It just seemed odd to me, that whole scene. He could have lived out the rest of his life, but I don't know. Maybe that's a spiritual thing for him. I'm not really sure. It just seemed odd to me that he didn't just decide to shoot the other guy and tried to fight him that way, because he ends up basically losing until Sam shows up and shoots the guy that he's fighting, and then he finishes him off. It's just a very strange scene to me. So I guess I would give this movie I would give this movie a 6 out of 10, just based on some of the scenes seemed a little odd, and the animation was really bad, but the actual core storyline was good, so I would still say go watch this movie. If you can get past the whole bad animation part of it, because I feel like the Lion was just, it didn't even really need to be in there for this movie. It was kind of just like a secondary thing that was there. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this film. So please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film if you've already seen it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.